has 100% win rate against C9 this year?
I'm going to guess. Immortals. I was going to say, using context clues,
yeah.
I'm thinking it might be the boys in green here.
They beat them both times in spring, as we already have bans coming through. One thing I do want to call out, I like the targeted Jace ban against Mask. That's one of his best champs. And then obviously, Armao is an Ivern enjoyer.
Yes.
And teams have been taking that off the table for him.
I mean, Jace is just a really good ban against Immortals in general, because I know Castle from Scrims, a lot of people think he's a really good Jace player as well. But to me, the most interesting thing coming into this second split has always been, can Immortals actually get their Scrim results to show on stage? Because every pro you talk to really respects this team in Scrims. They are a very solid team. Even when they got knocked out through playoffs, they still continued scrimming with the top teams because they wanted them as that scrim partner, but they hadn't been able to, in spring, make those results show. In summer, obviously kicked it off last week with a really strong 2-0 over Shopify, and now we have to see, can they do it against stiffer competition?
And a huge part of that strong 2-0 over Shopify was tactical, right? You guys were even talking on the desk at the top of the day. Besides his absolutely overwhelming smile, this man can really kick ass in the bottom lane. This team lives and dies by tactical, and last week, he was really showing up for him. Now going up against Berserker here in Cloud9, tactical needs to have another standout performance, I think, if they want to come off with the dub here.
I agree completely. I mean, this is something that we talked about last split quite a lot as well. Immortals generally only wins when tactical is doing well, right? They're not winning a lot, but they kind of need him to be starting off on that right foot, because he generally is their main threat towards the later stages of the game.
Well, speaking of win rate, right, we talked about C9 and how they kind of have to be ahead at 15 minutes in order for them to look successful. Because when they were behind at 15 minutes, they were 0-8 in spring and are now 0-1 in their first game against Dignitas.
So,
interesting. I know, obviously, small sample size. Interesting thing coming through. We are going to see C9 opting into a Senna composition. That's something that previously we did actually see them banning on blue side, I believe. So I'm really curious to see how they end up piloting that.
And this is probably the tactical Ziggs going down towards bot lane. So this is actually going to be really interesting, because it should be Senna Nautilus as the bot lane for Berserker and Vulcan. And we are seeing almost exclusively Corki mid. You see it sometimes AD, but mostly it is going to be played mid. So I'm assuming that this is going to be tactical playing that bot. I think it makes a lot of sense as well, because they do have Armao who's going to be playing, this jungle champion here. AD mids have been so popular. You need an AP threat, and if you're not going to have like a Karthus or something that's a really strong AP threat from the jungle, drafting it for bot makes a lot of sense.
And with that Corki being the first pick of the draft for Immortals, the immediate response from C9 was to lock in the Yone, presumably for Jojo. Obviously, Yone does still have flex capabilities, but most of the time you are seeing him there in the mid lane. C9 and Jojo are saying, all right, we know Corki's really strong right now. Here's the answer. We know that as the game goes on, if Yone finds Corki in a side lane or something like that, if Yone finds a 1v1 opportunity, he will just blast him. So we'll see how well Jojo can play with this.
Yeah, and I mean, they have a lot of engage already, right? With the Nautilus there, then you have the Yone to follow up. You have the Senna ult over the top to assist with that dive, to try to pick off some of these squishy targets like the Corki, like that Ziggs. So I'm going to be interested to see what Immortals will look towards. Would they go towards something that is a bit more of the Enchanter style, something that's a little bit more defensive to try to keep them alive, knowing that C9 is drafting for what is a comp that has to kind of die.
And you can see in the second half of the bans, Immortals targeting two of those semi-global ultimates, the Twisted Fate and the Talia, both of those options taken off the table, while C9 removes the Rel and the Renekton. Let's see what we end up getting down here in the support role for Olleh. Mr. Winrate himself, what is going to be the champion of the stats locked in for the support role this time around? I was going to say, I'm not going to mention it until he actually locks it in, but Olleh had some of the most impressive Bard plays that we saw previously.
Yeah, some of those Immortals wins came off of this Bard, and I think this composition that Immortals is cooking is really, really interesting. It's an echo of the Ziggs comp that they played at the end of last spring, kind of once they were already out of it, and won with. So I am really curious. We see the Karthus hover from Blaber. He is going to lock that in. So that is also a really interesting lock-in for C9. I love AP jungle carries right now.
Yeah, he was able to get 2 wins on it in spring. There were 2-1 on the pick. He is really strong on it. And I do think, with some of these kind of telegraphed engages, the Bard ult can also be used defensively. At times you can try to use it to immune Nautilus ult and things like that. If the Yone is coming in over the top. and it's going to be Karthus. So a lot of backline access here. You have Gnar going to be diving in with the Yone, with the Nautilus, and then you have these long-range ultimates, these global ultimates from the Senna, from the Karthus that are going to be there to assist or finish these backliners off. So we'll see if Immortals are going to be able to actually survive here. I feel like Rocket would be pretty critical for Olleh in this one. And it's going to be Lee Sin getting locked in. So either it's Maokai top or it's Lee Sin top. And we have to see what Castle is actually going to be bringing out here.
Yeah, I think that's Castle on the Lee Sin top.
So too.
Okay. Lee Sin top. I mean, you have plenty of tools to be able to close the distance on the Gnar when he's in mini form. You can safeguard forward, slow him down with the Tempest Cripple, or if you can manage to weave those sonic waves in between the minions, you can seriously do some damage to this guy while he's in that more vulnerable form. It's a very interesting pick.
Yeah, and I think that brings us back to Thanatos versus Castle, right? These are two players who are very familiar with each other from LCK Challengers. Gnar is one of Thanatos' most played picks. He's super familiar on this champion, so I am really curious.
Look for kicks and try to see if they can find it.
That was back during the era of mythic items and Gore Drinker, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was like, what, 2021, I want to say?
He just like heal up off of Gore Drinker, and it's like suddenly he's full health again. This is not fun to play against.
I'm really interested to see what he's going to go. You know, like what item he's actually going to go for here. You know, if it is going to be going towards early wave clear or what his actually strategy is going to be.
Yeah, that's why I brought up the Gore Drinker thing, because I'm like, Gore Drinker was one of those items that was so good, it made stuff that's bad not bad anymore. So I want to see what is the secret tech then to make this Lee Sin top pick once again more viable, because I'm with you, Azael. I don't actually remember the last time that I saw someone play this.
Even in recent times. Like, I don't see it at all. So it's gonna be really interesting to see how it actually works out. You know, I think you could just go like full lethality. That's definitely an option. You could go for like a Ravenous Hydra Rush or something along those lines. I feel like it's probably going to be one of the two. It's either going to be, you know, like Eclipse or Hydra, something like that. Okay. But I'm really curious, and I feel like when you're looking at Immortals comp, it could kind of fall flat. You know, there's a lot of, you know, high potential for big plays with the Bard as well as the Lee Sin top, but it's like they're both champions where if it doesn't go well, you don't really do much.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you let the enemy team win pretty fast. If it doesn't go well, I mean, it's not exactly going to be one of those slow bleed outs, at least.
I wonder if it's going to be something like, I'm just trying to think through like what the thought process here. Is it just going to be like for disengage kicks on Jojo and just trying to make Jojo's life a bit of a nightmare? You know, like he goes in, he gets CC'd up by Maokai, he gets kicked away, or kicking away Blaber even, you know, like on the Karthus, so he can't get in on top of everyone, you know, with the E damage, but I honestly just think we're going to have to kind of find out as the game goes on.
Yeah. I think the big thing for me is, like, obviously you look at the rest of this comp and it's like, oh, okay, they should be able to rotate this Ziggs around. They have really good siege. They have really good setup for that poke coming out of Ziggs and Corki with the Maokai. So you can see where the rest of the comp works, and then the Lee Sin is the spice that I'm not sure if I'm like, okay, this is interesting.
Nice sushi, and then you got some 5 spice on there. And you're like, wait, is that gonna...
And then by contrast, I love seeing Blaber on something like the Karthus, right? Where it is a farming AP jungler. We've talked about how strong those jungle picks are right now. I think Blaber is such an efficient farmer as...
This is a lot of damage on Castle. My goodness, man. Thanatos is absolutely messing him up here, hitting level 3 first, forcing the Lee Sin back. Castle down to 100 HP. Now just going to have to try to farm up underneath this turret, considering lane priority is completely lost.
Yeah, and Thanatos didn't want to risk it. You know, he potentially would have had enough damage if he flashed in, but I'm not sure, you know, if the W was available for Lee Sin, if he could actually, like, you know, safeguarded to survive that last auto, because he had 2 stacks of that hyper. As Jojo going in for a trade here, but taking the worst end of it. Still has his potion available, and is playing fleet, so obviously a lot of sustain still there for him. And yeah, Blaber, you know, it's not even just about this being a really strong type of champion. I feel like that farm-heavy champions is his style, right? Like when he's at his best, you know, I still think his most iconic champion is the Olleh, and to me, it's like all about him making efficient plays, making efficient ganks if they're going 3-minute in.
Mask in some trouble now. Jojo just baiting him in, forcing him to stick around a little bit too long. The lockdown into the dredge line, and it's first blood over to Blaber.
And you know what else is signature is Vulcan on engaged supports. I know we've hammered this home so many times. People are like, oh my gosh, we're sick of hearing about this, but with engaged supports, you have such early roam timers, as Berserker takes a ton of damage bot lane. You have such early roam timers, and Vulcan is so good at recognizing that.
Now Vulcan's bringing Blaber down here from another party. This time it's in bottom lane, flashing forward to try to lock up Tactical, but Tactical gets himself back away. Olleh gets rooted up, but he's underneath the turret, so no real threat on his life here, but they get 3 out of 4 summoner spells from the bottom lane of IMT.
Yeah, that is really nicely done, and I think partially you're not expecting Vulcan to actually make that roam because he's not playing the support. He's playing the farming champion in the bot lane this game, as Castle's going to go in for a trade, and I think he's regretting it.
I'm not entirely convinced about the viability of this Lee Sin pick right now based on how things are going up here in the top lane. Jojo talking a little bit of trash at the same time as Tactical once again has to get away with a satchel charge. Why play so aggressive? Okay, that's how you know
supposed to be aggressive. Yeah, you're typing so
trash
fast.
Talk is they're getting it out there. They do not care about spelling. None of that matters. Readability is not the point.
Yeah, and one thing that did, I mean, obviously, Jojo calling him out for pushing up so far in that lane and Vulcan recognizing that roam timer, like we said. But even though they had push and mid, the pressure from C9 side lanes, Vulcan was actually able to get up in the enemy bot side jungle, get some wards down, so they tracked Armao on the backside of that as well. So really, really strong early map pressure from C9.
And obviously there's some more minions to grab here for Tactical, but even with that roam from Vulcan, he's going to be up farm, right? Like, you know, there's not enough minions for Tactical to fully catch up. This wave is going to slow stack eventually and push out. Vulcan going to TP back down towards bot side. They do have that triple TP on the Cloud9 side. And Blaber is just really farming fast. It feels so bad when a Karthus gets ahead of the pace of the game because it's almost impossible as the enemy jungler to keep up with how fast this guy can make stuff happen on the map. Oh, yeah. Got double scuttle, first blood, after a 6-camp clear. Like, that is really going to accelerate his game. You can see the Faded Ashes, obviously, were already completed. He's up 500 gold. And generally, when Karthus is ahead, Karthus just keeps getting more and more ahead.
He's so suffocating as a jungle presence, right? But just by default, he is winning. So if you're not slowing him down, that's just going to be the state of the game. And right now, nobody's slowing him down at all. Grubs, first 2 already secured for the side of Cloud9. Blaber's got help to try to guarantee that there's not going to be any real challenge here for the third one. C9 feeling great about the first 6.5 minutes of the game. Yeah, it's going really well for them. Berserker even gets the 4 souls off the back of that, which is always really nice to get that extra little injection. Castle at least is staying relatively even in farm up on top side. Obviously, it is that advantage to Thanatos. And he did have the pressure in that lane. You know, he's the one that's actually chunking him out. But I want to see where Castle does go with this, right? Because he obviously, you know, has this prepared. He is one of the guys that I know, you know, does like some of these creative picks. He was cooking a lot with, you know, Top Zach early on and things like that last split. So going to be curious to see what he can get done. I mean, it was also the last pick of the draft, right? One of the things that I feel like we've criticized of North American teams for years at this point is what value are you deriving from 5th pick red side? This is what they were cooking. It's spicy like you're talking about, but I have to see if it's edible. Spice does not always equal flavor, so let's see how good this is really going to end up being. Because right now, again, I'm just not that impressed with how the lane is going, but I really am interested in what you were talking about earlier, Isaac. Is it all about kicking Karthus out of the team fight? Is it all about knocking Yone away so the dive doesn't accomplish what they need? Yeah, I mean, it can be one of these things where it's like, it's not working, it's not working, it's not working, but it might be a compositional pick, not a lane counter, right? So, going to be interested to see how that works. You know, we have seen how he's trying to trade in this. You know, when we panned up towards top side, he's basically, you know, just safeguarding to a minion. He's throwing down the E to get that Tempest Cripple onto the Gnar. He's trying to find these little trades like that, but has not really been pressuring Thanatos whatsoever, and is going to, I think, really have to get it a lane to make something serious happen, because if you can't bully the Gnar early, you're generally not going to be able to bully him as he gets level 6, as he starts getting a little stronger. And there, right there, is exactly what you were talking about. Just trying to jump in, get those quick, snappy trades. Always when the Gnar is in mini Gnar form, you do not want to jump in on the big one. We saw how that goes in some of those earlier moments where Thanatos nearly found the solo kill on him. Cloud9 still sitting at just a little bit more than a 1,000 gold lead here. Feeling really good about the state of things. No Drake taken yet by either team. Sometimes early on when you see those Voidgrub takes, it's traded across the map for the other objective, but not quite the story that's going to be told right here. As Jojo, still a little bit behind compared to Mask, but that's what you would expect early on for the Yone end of the culture.
Well, you mentioned the grub take, but they were actually able to rotate down, essentially, get vision of the area, and now that will be C9 taking the Drake. So the thing that's been impressive about this game thus far is the fact that C9 have had such a good, strong idea of where they've needed to be on the map.
And Blaber has 2K in pocket. Like, he has not faced for a long time. This guy is just power farming every single camp, dead on spawn, both scuttles, both objectives. He has gotten everything off the map. He's going to go back to base, and he's going to have a pretty big buy here. And we'll see what it is going to be. Is Thanatos going to be forced back as he was in mini?
All you need is Faded Ashes, man.
Yeah.
It just clears your jungle, right?
Feels good. It's, yeah, Yone gets full build with Berserker Greaves. Karthus gets full build with Faded Ashes.
Vamps after only.
Yeah, we've got some nice early power spikes here on the C9 comp. And with that first Hex Drake, with those first 3 grubs, with the only kill on the board 10 minutes into the game here, everything is going their way in the early game. Jojo trying to use that Soul Unbound to get as much damage as possible on Mask. He knows that the Corki doesn't have a whole lot of mana here left to work with, but a nice little use of the Caretaker's Shrine there from Olleh that set that up, makes it so Mask can continue having his control over the lane, as it looks like Jojo's going to go ahead and take the opportunity for a back here. Does have TP to return to lane.
Exactly, and Mask isn't going for the kind of greedier build with First Strike. A lot of times you see Corki play First Strike in these melee matchups to farm a little bit more gold, but he is playing a little bit more defensively, obviously, with that fleet footwork, trying to make sure he stays alive, as is going to miss that cannon, unfortunately.
That's a -1.
As we see both teams sending their bot laners mid to try to scrap around mid.
They're going to try to fight for a grub.
Yeah.
Right? Second spawn, Cloud9 already got 3, so it's going to be the question, you know, can they actually get this? Jojo held onto his TP, so he walked down towards bot, so he does have TP available. It's going to be all about that, but Mask picking up the package, I think I heard. Is he? No, he's...
Well, package is gone now.
There's no package.
Yeah, package is gone, but Immortals have control over the top side river. Meanwhile, back in mid, it's Vulcan just causing a couple of problems here for Tactical. Immortals into the grub pit. First grub going to be secured. C9 still looking to try to challenge for this. Thanatos has the Mega Gnar ready to use. Olleh jumping back over the wall. 1 for 1 on the second spawn of grubs. Here comes the Ziggs ultimate. Not a whole lot of value going to be found out of that just yet, but now Vulcan's in some danger. He's focused, but he ain't going to drop here just yet. The Aftershock doing a lot of work, keeping him alive. Dawning Shadow over the top. Castle down to 40% HP, and now here comes that teleport we were talking about from Jojo. Castle jumping back over the wall here with Safeguard. Nobody dead on either side, man.
Yeah, nobody dead, but Cloud9 walk away with 5 grubs. They're going to be feeling pretty happy about that. Mask just pushing out bot, but not going to be able to really get too much. They did get the TP from Jojo, obviously. Thanatos doesn't have TP, but it is just going to be responded to by Vulcan. So the triple TP working out pretty well here. They don't even lose a plate or any sort of tower damage down on bot side, and they're able to take those grubs away. So Cloud9 going to be feeling really, really good. The gold advantage is slowly building and building and building for them.
And a big thing that was also part of that fight that you might not have seen is the fact that Olleh still does not have his Bard up, right? Because that fight could go a little bit more in IMT's favor if they have that strong ultimate on their side. But unfortunately they don't, and that was going to always make that fight a lot more difficult for them.
I mean, it's still a 1-kill game, but Cloud9 is up almost 2,500 gold. The advantages that they've found through their farm leads, through the turret plates they've been able to capture, are just really starting to become a problem for Immortals. 2,000 gold 12.5 minutes into the game is a big deal.
Yeah, and I think we've set up the 2 battles, right? So Tactical does have a gold advantage over his opponent, right? We're gonna see this. I know, the timing. Oh yeah, that's true. Senna lanes. Never mind. We don't even have that. But C9 are up a good healthy amount at almost 13 minutes. And we see again, this team can look so clean when playing from ahead. I think they've done a really, really good job of covering the map. In particular, I love Vulcan on this farming Nautilus. I think it really allows him to, because he does recognize, again, those early roam timers to set up that kill for Jojo when Mask was pushed out. And that's been actually a huge difference maker, even though we haven't seen a lot of kills follow through after that.
And I mean, Immortals has just been so on the back foot, right? It's been Cloud9 dictating every single play. They haven't really gotten even chip damage on any of the towers, it feels like. So the Ziggs has not really been getting a lot of value, you know, has just been used for wave clear, has always been on the defensive here. You know, it doesn't mean that Immortals can't then collect that gold a little bit later on, but no plates with his Ziggs comp. It's going to feel pretty rotten.
Blaber is out farming everybody on Immortals except for Mask. He has more farm than the Ziggs. He has more farm than the Lee Sin. The Karthus is out of control right now. Liandry's already completed for him. Jojo actually just went back to base on that most recent purchase and got his Blade of the Ruined King completed too. You can see a couple of those first completions also coming online now for Immortals. Liandry's mirrored there in the jungle as Jojo wants to keep things scrappy against Mask down here in the bot side. Armao firing off the ulti, locks up Jojo, but he's already so far away, it won't even matter, man. The Yone, it's just so easy for him to get back out of danger. And meanwhile, Immortals trying to make that play in the bottom lane means C9 had more resources to throw into the Drake as the trade-off. They're going to go up to a 2-0 Drake lead now as well.
Yeah, Jojo didn't feel threatened whatsoever. Didn't even actually, use his ultimate defensively there. He just snaps back, eats the root. It's completely fine. He saw that Mask wasn't really chasing. Blaber just kind of threw out the Requiem to try to dissuade them from chasing in, and it's another objective, another advantage going the way of Cloud9. Triforce now done for Thanatos. It is the Eclipse for Castle, so figured it was going to be that or Hydra, but it is just going to be Eclipse. Obviously, pretty good damage.
Oh boy, there comes a... Oh, Jojo! It was a goof! That could have been so good, but it was so not.
Man,
I was ready to be like, yeah, and they're setting up this dive, and it's going to be great. Well, I do want to call out how well C9 are piloting this composition, right, though, because we'll turn to something good, except for that part.
Said the composition, not the game.
Yeah, the composition.
All right, fair. You got me there.
I think we had talked about how, like, okay, do C9 want to play Senna? We talked about how Berserker might be more comfortable in the current meta because if Senna is out of the picture, you can then play stuff like the Zeri, if you're defaulting to other different ADC options. But I really love this composition for C9 specifically because of Blaber, right? Like, again, farming AP junglers is just something that's just such in his wheelhouse, and so seeing them come out with this kind of comp is really cool.
Man, Armao is once again looking for Jojo, and Jojo once again does not care at all. Using that Soul Unbound to constantly put the pressure on Mask and keep himself safe just makes it so all of the attempts from Immortals to try to stop this guy, try to slow him down, are just not working out. And every time they try, C9's getting something else. This time the cost of Armao being bottom is Rift Herald.
Yeah, and they're going to try to potentially look for a dive here onto Jojo. We'll see if they can actually make it happen, but TP is available for Thanatos, so it would be risky. And Thanatos, or is that Vulcan? Vulcan's going to be the one TPing down to the bend, so they had 2 TPs available. They do get 1, so at least it's worth the threat of that, but they just can't really get anything going.
It's reading Rainbow for Immortals right now. Every single thing that they do, Cloud9's just like, oh, yeah, read that one from the book. Yep, page 1 right there. It doesn't feel like Immortals are really getting anything done. And Jojo, again, he's just fine.
Yeah, really good sidestep there on the Bardoll. Immortals getting a bit desperate at this point. I mean, when you're going on 17 minutes into the game and you're playing Maokai and you've done nothing but farm, it is really tough. You want to make those plays happen, but Castle getting low. They're going to summon the Herald here, and Castle, I don't think he's got any way out.
Again, Inferno Bomb to try to clear the wave away, but it won't even matter, man. Blaber's going to end up taking the kill thanks to the Liandry's burn. The Herald just barely gets the charge in at the very end to make sure that she contributes to that first turret, but why stop at 1 when you can make it 2? Second Herald charge coming out now. Should be able to guarantee the damage. Won't get a whole lot more than just that. C9's up 4,000 gold.
Yeah, and what a suffocating performance this has been from them, right? IMT have only been able to get 1 grub.
And there they finally catch somebody out. They finally get someone when he's not next to a turret. Oh, it's the guy with cleanse.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he even kind of like stepped back in to tank it. It felt like, not really too concerned at that point. But Cloud9 just cruising, and Immortals, I think the windows are really closing here for them. They do have some playmaking, they do have the Bardoll, you have the potential to maybe find a good kick from Castle, but you're already going on 5K down.
Man, you're talking about the windows feel like they're closing. I think these boys went to Home Depot and just nailed them shut. There's just not a whole lot that Immortals have shown me this game that they've been able to accomplish. Emily, I think it's a really good thing that you pointed out earlier during that Rift Herald fight. The Bard ulti just not being online in time. It just feels like Immortals haven't had the tools that they've needed to make any of these plays work. They haven't been able to catch out Jojo because of the way he's playing the Yone in the side lane. They haven't been able to do any fights because they just aren't coordinated on the level that they need to be. And the Lee Sin pick still hasn't shown us any dividends.
Yeah, and obviously, like, that mid kill, right, set up Jojo for success really early. So again, good on Vulcan, recognizing after going into the enemy side jungle on that roam timer, really setting up a lot of this. And I think the other big thing for me, again, is when you play these Senna compositions, they also just have such global pressure, right? We called it out, triple TP, you have Senna ult, you have Karthus ult. Jojo is also just really, like, Yone is such a mobile champion, obviously it's not a global ultimate, but like, they have...
It feels like that sometimes, doesn't it?
It does.
When it goes solo unbound.
When I'm playing AD carry and I get
Q3.
chucked on, it absolutely feels like that.
It's close enough to global.
Tough stuff for Immortals, man. Almost 5K, the lead now for C9. Baron's going to be spawning in under a minute, so if C9 does end up getting a pick, does end up getting a good fight for themselves, it's just going to snowball into an avalanche. And now let's see if Immortals want to try to do anything about this third Drake. Taking a fight in open ground when you're down 5K at 20 minutes is very difficult, but the alternative is just sit there and do nothing. Armao fires off the Maokai ulti and hits a field goal with it. Right through the uprights, nobody's going to get locked down. Now Jojo goes in. Bartle to try to keep Armao alive for an extra second, but the Dawning Shadow says no. Jojo ends up getting the kill credit with the mini death mark there on the Soul Unbound as Olleh has to go on a magical journey back through the wall, back over to the turret. The dragon, the fight, the game belongs to Cloud9.
Yeah, it's just not even close. I mean, I think it's not going to get any better for them, so they felt like they had to try. But Armao's an easy kill. Olleh, gets Bascone back in by Vulcan, has to flash to even portal out. And there's just nothing going on here for Immortals. Cloud9 looking clinical in this one. That's a really strong start to this second week. Obviously, this is a team with really high expectations. In spring, everyone had them power ranked first. That's not the case going into summer, but they are supposed to be championship contenders. They are supposed to be playing at this level. Cloud9 looking good thus far.
Yeah, and the big thing that really kicks this off is the fact that the Maokai ult is able to hit no one, right? They just scatter that big ultimate that you'd want to trap people at the pit is completely gone. And then, yeah, C9 just have complete control over this.
This is rough.
It's a...
I feel like Immortals are really just stuck in a spot where there's nothing left they can do unless Cloud9 gives them some major mistake to punish, and C9's just not doing that. Because that's the other thing about these Senna and Karthus compositions. You don't ever feel the pressure to be like, oh man, we got to do something right now, boys. Because you're stacking and you're farming, and eventually this spooky ghost is going to press R and half of all their health bars are going to disappear before any fight.
Well, and one of the toughest things is, you talk about playmaking when you think about coming back, but it's like, who do you even kick in? Like the Senna? Like, even if you kick in the Senna and you instantly kill it, do you win the fight afterwards? Like, probably not, right? So it's like, you don't want to kick in the Karthus. You don't really want to kick in the Gnar unless he's in mini for some reason and he's too far up or something. But, like, it's very hard to see how they would be able to, find that pick. And obviously, Yone is not really in a position to get kicked in most of the time. You can just kind of snap back with the E when you're ever aggressive. And there's the Bartle, but again, can't even go in on it.
I just don't know what anything in that sequence was trying to accomplish. The turret is already down by the time the Maokai ulti flies off. It connects on one guy who's 20 feet away from everybody else, and then they also hit him with the Bard ulti, but nothing happens. It seems very disjointed from Immortals, as now Olleh down to about 1/4 HP. Vulcan going to be taken low now too, but the problem is IMT has no damage! And Thanatos picks up kill number 4 for the side of C9. Olleh steps out of the way of the Dawning Shadow, and very importantly so, if that Senna ult would have connected, the Karthus burn would have finished him off.
Yeah, he has the locket, so going to be able to stay alive with the locket, with the Guardian. Is a little bit tankier, but Cloud9 just going to go straight over to the Baron. Castle will have TP, but he's not up for 25.
Yeah, Castle probably won't be around to be able to contest for this. Immortals have to try to keep these guys away, and that is at least the power of the Ziggs showing up. Immortals will not surrender the Baron this early, but C9 is up to a 6,000 gold advantage.
You're against Ziggs, you're against Corki, it's a lot of poke. Yeah. That would be one of the only places probably that Immortals could win a fight. So I think
that's a big mistake.
Like, wait a second. Wait a second, why are we doing Baron here, guys?
Yeah, I was waiting for the, I was waiting for the question from players, how do they get back into this? And it is kind of a Baron mistake, right? Because theoretically, IMT have a lot of really good tools in an enclosed space like this. If the Maokai ult and the Bard ult can kind of freeze people in place for that Corki poke, for that Ziggs poke to come in, it could end up being very dangerous for C9. But all of that stuff has to hit, and it has to be timed well.
So do you guys count one grub as avoiding a perfect game?
Yes.
Yes. I actually asked Twitter, and they said
A single grub is all you need.
grub avoids a perfect
It's so
game.
hard to get a perfect game
It
now.
is.
Yeah.
It
One
is.
grub is so easy to get.
Yeah, it's really hard to do. You have to play perfect.
So it's a no-hitter.
Yeah.
No hitters are really difficult to get.
Yeah, it's pretty tough to do.
This could be a no-hitter. Yeah.
Well, I think Castle got hit a couple of times up there in that top lane against the Gnar, man. I don't...
Because this is a damn near perfect game. I mean, it's like, I'm not going to curse it, but...
It's about as close as you can get,
They
but
basically didn't even hit a Cloud9 tower. Like, they got no plates, they got no objectives. Vulcan in some trouble, but just going to be able to walk it out.
yeah, dude, he just Spider-Man's away from that one. Jojo going to reset his position as once again that Maokai ulti not getting the lockdown that it needs. Jojo, fate sealed back over the wall, and he drags Armao with him. Now Castle comes over, trying to secure this kill. Nice little bit of a Bard ulti here, locks C9 down. The first kill comes through for Immortals, and they finally got somebody. Jojo going to take down Armao as now another kill pours through. C9 might have lost their jungler, but they're still looking to keep the fight going. Castle wants to get away, and Thanatos puts a boomerang in his back. Immortals tried to fight. It was the best fight they got all game, and they still got whooped.
And one of the best reasons why it was the best fight they got all game is because Thanatos was pushing bot side. He wasn't even there at the start of the fight, and it was kind of like, okay, when are we going to pull him from split pushing in order to join the fight? Are we even going to need him? They do end up pulling him later on. He comes around the backside of the flank on that, but yeah, he wasn't even there to begin with. So we did see the window for IMT going into this, right?
Yeah, it's a pretty nice setup, honestly. You know, they forced the flash out on Blaber. Nice timing there from Jojo to actually bring the Maokai across the wall, but then the Bard ulti locks him down. They get the one kill finally onto Blaber, so they are on the board. But there just wasn't a lot of damage here because Jojo had been pushed back so far. And like you said, Thanatos wasn't there. But once he arrives, it's just chaos. There's no way that IMT are going to be able to win that fight.
Well, Azael, it's no longer right next door to a perfect game, but it's still Brazil versus Germany in soccer. And that's still pretty one-sided.
You're not wrong. You might wish you didn't say it, but you're not wrong.
It's just banter. What are you talking about?
True.
All right, Immortals, let's see what you can do. Can we banter for the dragon? Immortals needs to try to stop this one. It's already 3 Drakes over to the side of C9. Mask tries to get away there from the depth charge. He does manage to disengage far enough away that there is no follow-up, but C9's doing a great job just zoning these guys out. Armao can't get anywhere close because Berserker just keeps him forced out. Now Armao and Castle are both about to die to the Requiem. It ain't even gonna matter. It's a 2-for-1 trade here for the very start, and they're about to make it 3. Olleh goes on a magical journey, but it's a journey straight to the respawn platform. Olleh running, trying to get away. It's just Gnar. Oh, never mind.
He's gone.
Yeah.
It's going to be a Baron right off the back of it. Call it a triple because Blaber got the dragon and 2 kills.
Yeah, man.
He just nuked him. Well, he didn't even leave for the fight.
Yeah,
he just kept hitting the dragon the whole time and then just presses R, picks up a double. He's like, oh, great fight, guys.
Just Karthus things, right? Like, it's just, I mean, this is, again, like, I cannot reiterate how awesome it is to see C9 pilot a composition like this because it suits their team really, really well. Like this, in the current meta, this is what I want to see them playing, as he's now 16th all time.
Just past high.
Yeah.
And I think high we saw in the walk-ins drove him to work. How are you going to do that?
There we
That's
go.
kind of messed up. Give you a ride earlier. They do at least take down Jojo, but it's just an unwinnable fight. Karthus is so strong. They have really struggled to make anything happen, you know, even with those playmaking tools. It was a good ult to start things off from Olleh, you know, that was very much earlier in the fight. He hit the Senna, but then Vulcan just walks forward, throws his R onto Mask, so Mask can't actually follow anything up. He's zoned out. Immortals just couldn't get anything going this entire game.
And you could see the frustration on Armao's face, and I feel like it would be hard to be anything but frustrated from Immortals' point of view in this game, just because everything we've seen them attempt has not worked out. It just felt like C9 had a stranglehold on this game from the very beginning, and there was just nothing that Immortals ever found for an answer. Now C9 with the Baron, with the Dragon Soul, it's not even 28 minutes into the game, and they've got all of this. They're pushing the wave up down here in the bot lane. Pretty much everything that Immortals is banking on is, hey, can Tactical and Mask clear the waves and try to poke these guys? But Requiem's coming in. And there's some of that big burst. Immediately, Thanatos goes on the rampage. The Senna Karthus Wombo combo is way more than Tactical Ziggs could deal with. C9 with a 5-man march down the bot lane, excuse me. As Castle's still all the way up in top, he's got to try to recall. Jojo going in, looking to take out Mask here now too. Blaber keeping Armao zoned away. The Maokai cannot contribute in any meaningful way to this fight, as the first Nexus turret is already down. Second Nexus turret in their sights. Jojo just jumping forward. It's just a formality for C9 at this point. Another Nautilus ulti, keeping Mask locked away. They're going to kill Armao. They're going to kill Castle. Mask still trying to stand and fight, but it ain't going to matter. C9 pad the stats a little bit and make game one look free.
Yeah, that was not close whatsoever. And you know, I'm pretty open to new things. I'll try anything once, but that Lee Sin did nothing the whole game. I mean, it's tough because it's not like it's the Lee Sin's fault. Like everything didn't work. You know, they weren't able to get push in any lanes. They got no turret plates. They got like no objectives. They just got nothing going. But I just never really even saw what the thought process was supposed to be with the Lee Sin, because it felt like it was losing the lane. Didn't feel like it contributed in the 5v5 either. So I don't know. That was a tough game.
Yeah, this is such a frustrating game to lose as well, right? Because if you're IMT, I mean, every game is frustrating to lose, but if you're IMT, you're like, I felt like I could do nothing. Like, I cannot think of a point in that game where it really felt like they had a lot of agency to execute what their composition wants to do, which is essentially get Ziggs out, get him mowing down turrets, and have your map coverage that way. C9 suffocated them off the map really, really early, and for me, it absolutely started with that Vulcan roam mid.
Yep, it was a rough game one for Immortals, but a reminder for everybody out there at home, next week, the